Flyers coverage on 97.3 ESPN, brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now. They'll match your first deposit, $250. Go to PlaySugarHouse.com. Win real money with their sports book along with casino games from the comfort of your home. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. Our Flyers insider, Kevin Durso, is with us. Flyers are back. Flyers looked good the other day. I liked your video. Go follow Broads81 and check out his reaction. It's like a 9-second, just reaction. No words, just reaction.
Well, I had some words. I just said one word multiple times. Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah. The word was yes, but it was more like, yeah. And then the title, the caption of the tweet, are the Flyers going to win the Stanley Cup? So the 9 seconds was me going, all juiced up.
At Broads81. Check that out. Let's get Durso on to the Boardwalk Honda hotline and get reaction from him as the Flyers, an impressive win. I want to get from you, Kevin, the stock you put in that game, because we're watching these playoff games now. Broads is saying you could tell the intensity's different in these playoff games from the round-robin games. Do you see that?
Yeah, I do see that. There is definitely a difference between the games that are in the qualifying rounds and the round-robin games. These teams in the round-robin know that they have more to go beyond this, and I think they recognize that. And there's a lot of feeling out that happens between the teams when they play these games, and I think that there's a care on still remaining healthy and still remaining prepared for the next step. And Alain Vigneault's talked about this several times, the common goal being ready for that first round and not necessarily looking too into these games, but still wanting to win them. So I do think there's a difference. That said, I do put a lot of stock into this game because of the fact that this is the best team that the NHL had to offer all season long. And their top line was shut down for pretty much the entire game. Carter Hart looked really well. A lot of other guys making their playoff debut looked really well as well. And I think you can definitely build off of that and take this one a long way if you look at the way that the rest of the round robin looks for the Flyers and the fact they're off on a good note to start with. 2 points in that round robin structure and currently holding that first seed until some of the other round robin games are being played.
Kevin, you wrote at 97.3 ESPN.com about Carter Hart and that, he was really the backbone of them. What stands out about Hart in the way he played in that game? Because obviously, as you said, the intensity might be a little different from what he might see, come next week when they start the real playoff games out of these round robins. But what was it about Hart that makes you feel like that was a big step for him?
I think it's his calmness in net. He really just treats it. He said all along he was going to treat it like just another game, and he really delivered on that. We look at that lineup for Boston and the power that they have coming back the other way, and I think we thought there was going to be a lot of opportunities. The thing about that, I think the third period is something that really stands out to me. He faced 2 shots in the first 15 minutes of the third period, and then faced 13 following the Bruins pulled a goalie. There's a lot of time there where they're just getting continuous shots, some of them really quality ones too. And he just stands tall the entire way, didn't let the one goal that went in that wasn't really his fault rattle him. And his poise in that is really undeniable at this point. He just has such a veteran presence for a 21-year-old. Nate Thompson turned around and said he doesn't look 21 to him, and it's hard to argue with when you're talking
he looks 18.
A guy. Yeah, he does look 18. But it was funny because I believe it was Tyler Pitlick who said today also that once he puts the mask on, you don't see that he's 21. I guess that's the point. When you look at his face, you see a really young kid. But as soon as the mask is on and the game's underway, he plays like a true veteran. Nate Thompson compared him to Carey Price in that respect, and Carey Price had a pretty good playoff debut this weekend as well. So, it's good company to be in for the 21-year-old netminder for the Flyers.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad comparison to be a part of. How big of a loss is Michael Raffl? He had 2 points in that game. He brings a veteran, experienced guy that you can play in certain areas on the ice where you can trust him. He's been around the league. You can trust him to play in certain points of the game. I will say the alternative, who it seems to be Joel Farabee, it's definitely not a bad alternative. You got speed in the lineup, which is how the game has definitely transitioned in 2020, but he's young and he can make mistakes out there.
Yeah, it's a big loss. It's not overly detrimental to the team. This is not Sean Couturier or Scott Lawton or somebody like that who's playing in your top 6. But it's a big loss because Raffl's so responsible on both ends of the ice. He makes a nice play on the first goal they scored, but he's also a very defensively responsible player, plays some penalty kill time. So he's a guy who fills a lot of roles, and you're asking a young player like Joel Farabee to kind of play a lot of roles in that respect as well. He's going to probably slot into the fourth line. We assume there's not going to be any other changes, at least for now. Alain Vigneault did say he's going to explore some other options, but he doesn't have any definitive answer yet on whether or not there's other changes to come. And if that's the only change, then you know where Farabee slots in, and he's going to play on the fourth line. He's going to play probably limited minutes. He might play in some unique situations for him, and that's going to be something that's difficult to replicate. Michael Raffl knows what his role is on this team, and he plays it well. Joel Farabee's still, as a rookie, trying to find himself a little bit in terms of finding that best fit for him in the lineup, and doesn't have the luxury of being an experienced player yet that he gets to just automatically slot into a spot. He's got to really earn everything he gets at this point. So his inclusion in the lineup is going to be interesting to see how he responds, especially after having that game off on Sunday.
Now, did you think the hit was dirty? Because I didn't think it was at all. It just seemed like it was a hockey play. It weirdly looked just like what happened with the Calgary Flames and Winnipeg Jets with Matthew Tkachuk. Honestly, I don't think either of them were dirty, but specifically the Raffl one, it seemed like he kind of lost an edge as he was going into the boards.
Yeah, I think it was there's a fine line between he was losing an edge and there was a bit of a slew foot motion on the play too. So I think the officials did a good job in not calling anything on it, because of the fact that I think if you look at he's losing an edge, there is a bit of emotion, but I think both players are involved in it. It's more of an incidental hockey play than it is an infraction there. And I don't think there's any stock in that at all in terms of, anything that carries over to this or anything like that. I think that it's just a hockey play. It's unfortunate that Raffl, who had such a good game, goes out like that and has to be helped off the ice. And the thing about his injury now is that there's uncertainty to it. Alain Vigneault tells us he's going to be out for a little bit. And what does for a little bit mean? It's going to be, in these terms, it's very vague. It could be the next two games of the round robin. It could be into the first round of the playoffs. We just don't know. So that's the unfortunate part, because he had a really good game, and it ends with him getting helped off the ice. That's unfortunate for him.
Kevin Durso covering the Flyers. They're back in action Thursday at 4 right here on 97.3 ESPN. What about that pairing of Sanheim and Myers? They got a goal from Myers. That was a blast, by the way. But that was Alain Vigneault all week talked about the confidence that they had with those two guys, and it seemed to work out.
Yeah, it did. And I talked to him about it because I talked to him about all the pairings, quite honestly, because he's kept the pairings the same for relatively several weeks and going back to before the pause. He hasn't done anything different with those pairings. And he said that he's liked them for the last 20 games. And when you see Sanheim and Myers play a game like that, it's easy to understand why. Sanheim, we've all seen start to grow into that role more and more over the course of the year. He's just continued to develop. But I think that kind of game right there for Phil Myers is sort of a coming out party on what his potential could be. He's got the ability to be a really solid defenseman and play that second pairing role really well, especially since he's a natural he's a right defenseman, right-handed shot. He fits really well in that grouping, and he's played with Sanheim for several years now, going back to the minors. So he's a great fit, and I think that you got to see his full potential there even more so. I think Sanheim's kind of always had it there on the surface. I think more people recognize him, but I think Myers was the one who had the real showing that impressed a lot of people. And I don't think there's anything different I would do with that pairing for a while. They read each other very well. They complement each other with their styles very well. And it's a pairing that I'd like to see even more from, because they have so much confidence in them. And they showed it. They put them out there against the top line of the Bruins on several occasions, and Boston's top line got nothing going throughout the game.
I know it was only one game, but it did look like the team didn't lose a beat. It seemed like the same exact team that we saw before the stoppage. It's like they let the game come to them. They stay true to the system. And one thing that I really love is, let's look at it from a Boston perspective. If Bergeron, Pastrnak, and Marchand is off the score sheet, more times than not, they're going to lose that game. With the Flyers, you don't have Giroux on the score sheet. Voracek might have picked up a secondary apple or something, but regardless, he wasn't on the score sheet scoring goals. And Travis Konechny, JVR, these type of players weren't on there, and you can still win the game. And then next night, you might get Ivan Provorov scoring goals with Scott Laughton and Travis Sanheim, and then the next night, it could be Raffl and Nate Thompson. The depth is just unbelievable when it comes to scoring.
Yeah, you said it, Rhodes. It really is unbelievable. And I one of the things I put in the takeaways article I have on 97.3ESPN.com. Michael Raffl scores the first goal, and who had Nate Thompson scoring a goal in this game? If you did, then go. If you both of those guys scoring a goal in this game against the top team in the NHL from the regular season, then go play the lottery, because it wasn't something that we saw coming at all, probably. You expect the top guys to be the main contributors usually, and that's the beauty of this team. It's that they get contributions from up and down the lineup. It doesn't really matter where a guy's playing. And, it was funny because that exhibition against Pittsburgh, I thought the top line was probably the best line in that game. Sean Couturier scores. The second line contributes 2 goals. Kevin Hayes had 1, and Scott Lawton had the overtime winner against Pittsburgh. And then it's a totally opposite story in this first round robin game. It's Michael Raffl and Nate Thompson on the fourth line. It's Phil Myers, who's a guy who you don't get a ton of offense from, but can get that offensive contribution at times. And then Lawton's the one who scores and puts the finishing touches on a really convincing win in the first round robin game. They get contributions from everywhere. And, you even said the top line didn't have a point in the game at all. And it's really impressive when you can play a top team in the league like Boston and have your top line be completely held off the score sheet and still get 4 goals out of and a convincing win. It's really impressive.
All right, Flyers back in action Thursday right here on 97.3 ESPN. Flyers coverage brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now. They'll match your first deposit up to $250. He's Kevin Durso at Kevin_Durso. He's got a ton of Flyers coverage up on our website, 973ESPN.com. His 5 takeaways, an article on Carter Hart, and how long will the Flyers be without Michael Raffl? It's all right now at 973ESPN.com. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And, of course, Kevin Durso, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline.